Hello and welcome to Round 5 coverage of Grand Prix Atlanta. Brian David Marshall here in the booth with two-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor Eduardo Sajgalik, and we are watching former world champion Brian Brown-Duin playing against former Player of the Year Tomohiro Saito.
What a start.
And yeah, this is quite the opening here for BBD with the Mox Opal, the Chromatic Star, the Dark Steel Citadel, get everything online.
Yeah, this is really going to come down to Saito being able to get a turn 2 piece of disruption. Turn 1's obviously going to be setting up either pressure with Champion of the Parish or Noble Hierarch for mana. But Saito's going to really need disruption or BBD to draw virtually nothing, since that's a very quick deployment of mana. And an Ironworks on turn 3 would be lights out. So Saito really needs to draw either Meddling Mage or Freebooter, and, well, I mean, might have it in hand, too.
There you see Saito reading the Terrarian. Noble Hierarch was his play off of an unclaimed territory.
Yeah, here, if BBD was looking for a card, Terrarian's the card you would normally sack, because it's a lot harder to sacrifice, it's more conditional. You would want to keep Star in play and get rid of Terrarian first.
And that's what he's done. Oh, boy. And Scrap Trawler is the play here on turn 2.
I like, by the way, they're reading the card. Not enough people do that little action. I see so many people fairly confident in what a card does, and then just assume it does what they think it does, and then something horrible happens not in their favor. So just read the card. That's just generally. Look, if a player like Saito, who lives and bathes Magic cards as a profession, as a hobbyist, as a player, everything, still reads every card. So when that's happening at that level, you know that at home you should be reading the card, unless you know exactly what it does already.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that people will make fun of sometimes, but it is the correct thing to do, especially because it's very easy for your wires to get crossed too on stuff.
Yeah. Okay, Meddling Mage.
Wow.
Well, almost certainly naming Clark Clan Ironworks the namesake of the deck, since BBD has, every other piece. So it's the most important piece and certainly the one you need to name.
Any chance you would ever name something like Engineered Explosives, or are you worried at all about a card like that?
I am worried.
Breaking you up, but you don't have time to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely worried. I just don't think there's anything I can do. Unless BBD literally has explosives but not Ironworks, but even then, number of copies, there's 4 Ironworks and there's 3 explosives. And there's also 2 Pirate Spell Bombs.
All right, well, there's an Ichor Wellspring. Draw a card.
Yeah, I think you just have to name explosives here. Not explosives, sorry. Yeah. Clark Clan Ironworks. It's just very easy to be scared of explosives and then lose to your opponent just plays Ironworks.
Lose to the combo piece.
Yeah, although here notably, maybe BBD hasn't done the land drop yet, but maybe just doesn't have access. Okay, we got access to 4 mana. And yeah, BBD has the Ironworks in hand. I believe we saw a glimpse of it, yeah. Obviously you name it with Meddling Mage, but...
There's Mind Stone, so now he just needs to find a way to deal with that Meddling Mage.
Yeah, but any method to deal with Meddling Mage is going to cost at least a turn. So this is giving Saito at least 2 turns of aggression, which, with the number of resources in hand, might be able, especially with Noble Hierarchs, starting to stack up. This Champion of the Parish is going to be very large, since you're not sending a Meddling Mage in.
You see him playing Noble Hierarch. There's a Mantis Rider.
Well, at that point, you might as well attack with both.
Yep. Could have gotten the Exalted trigger on the champion, but actually gets 3 damage in.
Yeah, it's +1 damage,
so +1.
And if BBD decided to chump block here, which I don't think is necessarily the plan, but if there was a decision there, then that decision is made much worse here. But yeah, at this point, the thing is, an Explosives for 2 would get rid of Meddling Mage, but not the rest of the board. And the board is dealing a lot of damage right now. This is 7 coming in, putting BBD to 13. I think Saito is likely to present here a free turn clock. It's possible to be 2-turn with a combination of, let's say, Reflector Mage plus Mantis Rider, which would be 6, 12, plus 2 for Meddling Mage. But it seems more likely that this is going to be or Folly's Lieutenant. It seems more likely that this is going to be free, like 2 more turns. A Lieutenant here would be, let's see, so we got, I mean, the thing is the Trawler can chump block, so if you had Reflector Mage, that'd be, the Hikes would be tapped, so it's free. 7, 10, okay, it'd be just enough with Reflector Mage and Lieutenant.
2 Pyrite Spell Bombs, 3 Engineered Explosives. What other options does BBD have to deal with this Meddling Mage?
You've named the options.
Can he win without a Karklan Ironworks?
Not game 1. I mean, I guess you could have like 4 Scrap Crawlers and go to town, but this isn't the matchup for that. So yeah, BBD needs to resolve a Karklan Ironworks. Well, not even resolve, just be able to cast it. But yeah, without Pirate Spellbomb or Explosives, like if BBD doesn't play, I think there's one turn where BBD could like not play Explosives, but then would need Pirate Spellbomb the turn after, or would be done. Essentially, Explosives would cost 4 mana, and there's not enough time to play Explosives, sacrifice it, and play Clarkland. So here, either BBD is casting Explosives for 2.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, or had a Pirate Spellbomb next turn with extra mana, but this is the setup. So now BBD's at 12.
Oof.
There is a Trawler that can block, the Champion of the Parish. So for Saito to have lethal, you need to have Reflector Mage on Trawler. That would bump the Champion to 5 power, 8 with Rider, 10 with Meddling Mage. And then you would need something to pump up the humans. So it's very unlikely that Saito essentially can deal lethal damage. Reflector Mage here would be extremely powerful, though, even without a way to deal more damage, since
you need to get that Trawler into play to really go off.
Right, and at that point, BBD wouldn't be allowed to, but BBD could then start doing something like looping Engineered Explosives and killing all the permanents in play and going like, okay, fine. But a good attack with Reflector Mage would be great here. Now, the question is, because of Reflector Mage, I believe Saito has 2 Buglers in hand. So there's a few options. You could lead off by sacrificing Horizon Canopy, but Bugler...
Here's the Militia Bugler.
Yeah, the problem is most 2-drops are not going to be relevant because of that Engineered Explosives. And then you can't cast Freeze. So with that in mind, I'm kind of... If Saito has a land, then this is fine, because you can get like a free drop like that you're looking for. Like, say, Reflector Mage. But if Saito doesn't have a free drop, I kind of would have liked to see the Canopy be sacked first, just in case, right? You hit the Miracle outer, since if your only option is Bugler, yeah.
Oh, well, there's Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah, so this is, let's see, Mantis Rider is going to deal 4. Champion is already 5 power, since Saito pointed to it. They'll go to 7. So Champion going up to 7 power, Mantis Rider 2. This is 1 short.
Wow.
Well, assuming the Trawler kills the Meddling Mage, but if the Trawler blocks the Champion, this is obviously not. Yeah. Yeah, Saito's putting the most pressure possible, but BBD is just going to...
Yeah, using the purple dice. Those are -1/-1 counters.
Maybe we run out of dice. Oh, no, we haven't. Good. The important part, though, here is BBD does need a land, since... there needs to be an activation of Engineered Explosives plus playing KCI. But here...
He will draw 2 cards on the Ichor Wellsprings that die.
Yeah, exactly. So the chances are high that BBD is going to take this one down. Just based on cards drawn, BBD is an advantage to win here. Quite likely, actually, with this many draws.
And as you can see, the advantage bar has sort of nudged in his direction.
It's very weird, right? The Trawler will be off the table here, though, I believe, if the Meddling Mage attacks. Without the Meddling Mage attack, then that Trawler is going to stay on board. That's 7. Yeah, this puts BBD to 1, and 1 is infinitely more than 0, even mathematically. We have Frank Karsten behind, but I'm pretty sure that 1 is infinitely more than 0.
It's the most powerful life total in Magic.
Yeah.
It means you're not dead.
It's a very relevant... Yeah. And there's not much that... BBD doesn't require that 1 life. Well, requires the 1, but not more. So this is, yeah, 7-4. BBD will just take it here, yeah. I think here Saito should have maybe attacked with the Meddling Mage. But if you attack with Meddling Mage and Trawler dies, then you're hoping that there's not another Trawler. rather than BBD being able to draw a land. Yeah, here, the thing is, these Wellsprings going to the graveyard do get BBD back some artifacts, which will likely be that explosive because of the Scrap Trawler. But the Mox Opal, there's no way to sacrifice it. So unfortunately, there's no way to return it for BBD.
All right, so
Definitely start by sacrificing explosives and drawing some cards.
Yeah, this is step 1 here.
BBD has 2 draws, so the advantage bar goes down a bit since the first one didn't get there.
Step 2 is find a land. Step 3 is play Clarkland Ironworks. Step 4 is profit.
Yeah, we found the question mark. The answer is Clarkland Ironworks. Yeah, return these. So between that and yeah, that's going to be a lot of cards. If I see Inventor's Fair.
Yeah, I just saw land, so that looks good.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we can cast it. Yeah. The fact that Engineered Explosives is both board control and mana is egregious to me. Yeah, Clarkline Ironworks, and we're going off. Likely sacking Mox Opal here, casting some other artifact, looping it, then sacrificing that artifact to get back Mox Opal, add mana. We're going to the races.
Yep, there's the Mox Opal being sacrificed. There's the Terrarian being sacrificed. Gets back the Mox Opal.
Yeah.
You see the mana in his mana pool.
I'll let you narrate this one.
So now he plays his Lion's Eye Diamond.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean,
you don't discard your hand.
Yeah, it's Black Lotus.
It's like 2 colorless and a color. It's a little worse than Black Lotus.
Finds another Clarkland Ironworks there off Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, probably like didn't have any other options. Like the additional Clark clans are a little less relevant, but they do get back Nicker Wellspring.
So there's Chromatic Sphere.
Mox Opal with Scrap Trawler in this deck is just something else.
Yep, and now he is in basically the rinse and repeat mode. And he's looking for Mirror Retriever here.
Yeah, Mirror Retriever, coffee. I mean, there's a few things you can get at this point. No, okay. So in all seriousness, what's going on is just BBD is looping cards, right? Chromatic Star gets you back Mox Opal. So at this point, you have no mana issues because Mox Opal generates free mana. So when you're sacrificing Star, you're also adding a ton of mana this way. So what's going on is you're just looping cards that draw cards with mana. So you don't have any more mana issues. That's done. That's finished. At this point, it's just cards. Cards are the only resource that BBD would be lacking.
There's another Mox Opal now.
Yeah, but that second Ironworks can get cast and yet sacrificed to get an Ichor Wellspring. Yeah, just sacrifice the Ironworks. It's just a card draw engine. That's all BBD is looking for, is just more cards. And yeah, at this point, as long as BBD doesn't, well, draw pure air, BBD should be comfortably winning this game. Especially because Willspring draws 2 cards and generates 2 mana. That's a good card.
That card's great.
Yeah, and then you get Chromatic Star, which also generates a card and more mana. So it keeps going and going and going. Yeah,
we see. Getting back the Engineered Explosives there.
Second Scrap Trawler.
Oh boy. So now each of these triggers he gets to do twice.
Yeah, and there's a Clarkland Ironworks. So, yeah, this is going to get back both Ichor Wellsprings, which is going to draw BBD. Unless it's the answer to that question is every land in BBD's deck, BBD's won this one.
So there you see 2 cards.
I see like more Spheres and Terrarians and...
All right, now he's sorting out what mana he has here.
The answer to that question is enough.
Yes.
It's still better to like clarify it, of course. Just being clear is great. Because BBD hasn't been returning that Mox Opal, so it's been a little less mana. Especially colored mana. Colored mana tends to be the one that's always in demand. But yeah, colorless mana, not an issue when you're sacrificing Wellsprings to get back.
Yeah, look at this.
Chromatic Star and Terraria. Okay,
Yeah, this is all
it's almost
over here.
Yeah, the probability to fail at this stage is probably sub 0.01%. It's very low. Like BBD's basically got this.
But Saito's been playing Magic long enough. He's going to wait and see what happens. His games are not going to take very long, games 2 and 3, if he gets to win both of those.
Yeah, neither player is really concerned about the clock, since the Humans deck usually kills the opponent quite fast, and the Ironworks deck only really needs a turn. So at this point, what BBD is looking for is essentially the Mirror Retriever you mentioned a bit earlier. With Mirror Retriever and one of the Star Sphere style cards, what you do is you pay a mana ability. Now, to pay a mana ability, you can kind of pay your costs all at the same time. So while you decide to pay that mana ability by sacrificing, I believe the full loop when you have is something like Scrap Trawler, Mirror Retriever, Ironworks. The star you're sacrificing is paying the mana, and a Mox Opal. And then all that ends up doing, I mean,
everything sees each other and comes back.
Right.
And you just get to continue to do
So
that.
you essentially, and then you get it with a Pirate Spellbomb. So you're generating infinite mana, and then eventually you generate, yeah.
Saito is just like, okay, come on.
Yeah. But once you do it with Pirate Spell, so you draw cards until you get to Pirate Spellbomb, and once you draw Pirate Spellbomb, then at that point you're not drawing cards with this loop. Then you just aim 2 damage to the head, and then you just do that and win.
He's got all 4 Scrap Trawlers in play.
I mean, we're good here.
Arguably the most powerful combo deck in Modern right now.
At the moment, for sure. You can't argue with that. One of the important parts of Ironworks is there's a lot of
Do you say
graveyard.
inarguably?
Inarguably? There's always like a combo deck people haven't discovered, right? Ironworks wasn't like that well known.
It's a card people have been trying to break since it was printed.
Yeah, it took a while. Like, I don't fully believe that there's you can take the Pyro Spellbomb here or the Mirror Retriever for the full loop.
Yeah, he takes the Mirror Retriever. And now he says, okay, now that I have the Mirror Retriever, I'm just going to take all these cards, put them here briefly, pick them all back up, replay them.
You do need to pay a mana ability. For them to all go at the graveyard at the same time, you do need a mana ability, and Terrarian comes into play tapped. So Terrarian specifically, I believe, cannot work for this combo.
Ooh.
But there's a chromatic star somewhere. We can do that. Yeah, Terrarian doesn't. I believe Terrarian doesn't specifically work because it comes into play tapped, so can't pay for something. And at that point, if you're just sacrificing, like you're doing it one at a shot. So yeah, I believe at least. It's not very hard though to replace Terrarian with like one of the star style effects.
Saito feels like maybe he saw some. He's not scooping. He's like, why don't you just keep going?
Yeah. Yeah, so now... Okay. I mean, there is a loop, right? Like, but you have to be able to pay a mana ability. So, cast a spell, sacrifice a chromatic star.
You have to have a cost you're declaring that you're paying for.
Yeah, exactly. It's just because you pay all your mana costs at the same time. It's very strange. Yeah. That's fine.
He's like, I will show you the Pirate Spellbomb. Excellent. I will concede.
Yeah, so you saw the loop with Terrarian. That doesn't actually work, but
Right.
It's fine. There was a chromatic sphere at some point. BBD could have just returned that. It wouldn't have been an issue.
All right. So now we go to sideboards. And again, you don't play a deck like Humans without some plan for Ironworks. And I would assume vice versa.
Right, yeah. These are two of the premier competitive decks in the format. Players with free buys are certainly expecting to face these decks at least once, if not twice, in the tournament. Saito's plan is going to be those two Damping Sphere, kind of an all-star. Hate against Tron, hate against these combo decks. That's why you have seen Damping Sphere see more play. Ever since Dominaria was printed, a lot of decks have decided to play 1 to 3 copies because it's so universally good at what it does. You also have Galactique. Sure, Galactique dies to Pirate Spellbomb. However, and Lightning Bolt and Fire Sprouts that are coming out of BBD's deck. But it does stop Ironworks and it does stop explosives. So it's got a lot of utility. I really like Gadoktig as an inclusion in these humans decks, even though it's a Kifkin. You'll also probably
We've
see...
also seen Dryads. The humans have been reaching out to a lot of other tribes. They feel bad about their dominating all these tribal decks in Modern.
We're definitely going to see Dryads. These free Knight of Autumns are coming in. Very good with Aether Vial, especially. Being able to snipe a key artifact at the right time is great. BBD side, Lightning Bolt? Yes. Fire Spout? Yes. Sai usually comes in because the humans deck needs to cut some cards for the cards I mentioned, and often that's Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage does have some utility against the card Scrap Trawler, so sometimes you'll see a humans player keep 1 or 2, but they're shaved numbers at least. So Sai in play allows you to win through Disruption. Getting extra 1/1s for each spell you cast is a big effect. Plus the card draw, it allows you to board control, draw cards, and essentially slowly move the game towards your advantage. And I think the spiciest piece of tech, which we'll probably not see against humans, is the Antiquities War. That is some spice, though.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see it because your plan is already Fire Spout, Lightning Bolt side. That's a lot of cards. And the truth is, the Antiquities War, not that great when your opponent has a bunch of creatures in play. It's an okay alternative win condition, though. It's really in the deck against decks where where you feel like a lot of Graveyard Hate will come in, or decks that will board in Stony Silence. And because humans doesn't do it, BD's plan is going to be a little simpler. It's going to be something like Sai, clearing the board. There doesn't need to be that kind of alternative win condition, because the critical mass of artifacts needed is usually not there. It's really against decks with Stony Silence and Rest in Peace to give you another way to win the game.
Yeah, both players still making their final choices and shuffling up.
But yeah, you were asking me earlier, like, basically which deck is favored, and my general answer is humans is slightly favored, not by much.
So when you say not by much, if you were going to put a number on that, is
like
not by much 51%? Is that 55%?
48, like it's like a 52, 53, 48, 47 matchup. It's relatively close, and part of that is because Ironworks is an extremely powerful deck. So normally how to beat these combo decks that rely on, say, artifacts of this nature is Disruption plus Pressure, which humans does do well. However, Explosives, Pirate Spellbomb, Lightning Bolt, Fire Sprout, because humans is a known quantity, like if humans was a deck that, like, say, 2% of the field play, then I would say that humans is far more favored, since you might have less specific answers to that deck. But because it's a deck that many players decide to pilot, at that point you realize, well, okay, so I can be prepared. I'm going to be prepared.
I mean, I was talking to Frank Karsten earlier today, and I asked him, if he'd run the numbers on the likelihood of us not seeing a humans deck any round. And he's like, well, mathematically, it's very likely that you won't see a humans deck. I argue that for once in his life, Frank got the math wrong, because I feel like we've seen one every single round at this point.
Something about probabilities and randomness is that perception is different from reality. I think my favorite quote is Apple designed for iTunes or the music app, whatever it is. Like, they had a pure randomness at the start of design, and people were complaining it wasn't random enough. So they're like, okay, we'll check. It was random, like, totally. But the thing is, people perceived randomness as equaling all change and not seeing the same thing, which isn't true. Like, they were complaining about hearing the same songs too frequently. When it's pure randomness, that would happen. So they ended up doing
simulated randomness.
They changed it to shuffle, which is you can hear any song at any time as long as you haven't heard it before. And then it loops if you decide to. But it was interesting that, like, I mean, you can see it like in Magic, right? Like, oh, how likely are there to draw free cards? But not that much, because the decks are shuffled in a certain way, which you'll draw in a specific pattern. Decks, same. If there's 10 humans decks out of 100, say, well, sure, we've seen 2, but that doesn't mean the other 8 aren't there.
So we see Aether Vial in the opening hand for Tomohiro Saito there. You talked about the idea of the interaction of that card and a Knight of Autumn or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It basically, Knight of Autumn is going to be relatively good, kind of no matter what, but if you can interrupt the combo, that's very strong. because one of the troublesome aspects of the Ironworks combo is the deck plays Ironworks and then wins on that turn, so you can't really interact. Knight of Autumn is a good way to get something kind of in the process.
Well, they'll also operate on fairly tight margins early on in their turn sequence in terms of mana and so maybe an opportunity to snipe, let's say, a Kirkland Ironworks itself.
Yeah, but it's very rare that like Ironworks comes down and then you're not in trouble.
Oh,
So then you're asking, like, getting a Scrap Trawler would be okay. That's like a good scenario. A Mox Opal's like okay, but what else are you getting? Like a Star?
No.
An Ichor Wellspring? I mean, you still have Knight of Autumn because it can be a 4-free, but yeah. But being able to vial it in, that's a big edge. Because then you can get an Ironworks mid combo, and that can disrupt the combo player's turn well.
All right, there's Cavern of Souls. We know what it's going to name. Aether Vial comes down.
If you play the card Mana League and this is the start, you're always so sad Cavern into Vial. It's not the case here for those watching. This is Ironworks combo versus humans, but just makes me smile how like counter magic just implicitly doesn't work. It's like, it's not something I thought about, but okay, let's make it not work.
Yeah. Grove of the Burn Willows into Terrarian for BBD.
Classic start to tell you that some nonsense is going to happen. If your opponent plays Grove of the Burn Willows, you know nothing good is happening for you. No fair magic is planned. This isn't Kavu Predator land.
All right, Horizon Canopy, and now we see Kitesail Freebooter and laying out the hand. Well, you know what? There's a lot of the tools that BBD needs. There's the Kirkland Ironworks. There's a Star. There's a Scrap Trawler. There's a Darksteel Citadel. And they're just happy to be here, Yavimaya Coast.
Just happy to be here. Yavimaya Coast is a land of a proud tradition. First land I played in Constructed.
Oh, no, I consider myself a very proud member of the Yavimaya Coastal Elite.
Exactly. Now, as for the card, yeah, normally Ironworks is the pick, just because it makes sense, right? Like you don't care too much about card velocity. The only time you'll see something like Ironworks not be picked in a scenario like this was if Saito's hand was loaded. Say Saito had free meddling mages and could go like, okay, I don't want you to draw cards because I don't want you to get to an answer, so I'm just going to name like Explosives Ironworks and then have a Vial at 2 for whatever else. Like if you decide to kill one of them.
So BBD cracks the Terrarian. Plays Chromatic Star and passes.
Yeah, and here you see BBD cracking the Terrarian but not the Star, and the main reason for that is there's a lot of 2-mana plays in the deck. Ichor Wellspring, Mind Stone also come in, but 1-mana plays, there's not as many, and at that point, the Chromatic Star is best left in play because you don't know if you're going to draw Lightning Bolt or Ancient Stirrings or another Star Sphere, but even if you do, I mean, sure, like, it's okay here to pass and get that information. You also, like, avoid, say, Phantasmal Image on Kitesail Freebooter.
Oh. All right, so attack for 2 from the Kitesail Freebooter. Noble Hierarch's going to deploy another Aether Vial.
Yeah, and you also see the Dismember come in, probably over something like a Reflector Mage.
And there's the card we talked about. That's a Dampening Sphere.
Yeah. Well, it's a good card when your opponent's comboing off, but it doesn't do too much in the process.
There's a Scrap Trawler. There you get a look at Dampening Sphere. Or Damping Sphere, sorry.
I made that mistake so many times.
I know.
With 2 Vials, though, that Canopy is probably going to go to the graveyard quickly. If not this turn, next one.
Each spell a player casts. Boy, this really just cuts to the heart of what the Ironworks deck wants to do.
I think the flavor text is reminiscent of something else that might have hurt the Ironworks deck. For those vintage aficionados out there. But yeah, here, now, Saito's got the Disruption on point, but the clock is not that fast.
It's about to pick up here.
A little bit. This is like an additional point of damage, maybe 2 down the line. I mean, you have to start.
And in for 3 comes the Kitesail Freebooter. It does everything.
Freebooter is just so good. It's the best Stormcrow they've ever printed, I suspect. I guess you can't pitch it the force of will, but still. Okay.
So
Yeah.
what do we need here if we're a BBD?
Looking at this board, engineered explosives comes to the top of my list. Being able to kill Freebooter, Lieutenant, and Damping Sphere in one shot? Yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. Also important to note is engineered explosives has some game against Damping Sphere because the cost is X. If you decided as your first, second spell, let's say you say X is 0, okay, it costs 2 more mana. But then the Sunburst just checks the amount of mana that was put into it. So if you're facing the card Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, or Damping Sphere, and you have to pay additional mana, you just say that X is lower, and then you still Sunburst the amount of colors you want.
All right, well, there is the Knight of Autumn we talked about, and it's getting brought in with Aether Vial here.
The green-white Necrotal.
Yeah. It's going to bring back a Chromatic Star.
Interesting that Saito decided to keep the Dismember in hand, maybe for a future Scrap Trawler, and just that way disrupt plus put pressure.
Yeah, Guilds of Ravnica making its presence known here in the Modern format. Seen a handful of cards actually already.
That's quite true. To be fair, Steam Vents was an all-star before.
There's the Knight of Autumn. Takes a lot to break into the ranks of humans, but we've seen, as you said, Dryads doing it.
Well, there's a lot of text. That is a lot of good options. That card just like basically does what you want it to do at almost any point of the game. It's very good in a format like Modern where, you know, as you said earlier in the day, sideboard starts are constrained. Something like this where you have optionality and all the options are good. You're kind of happy no matter which option you pick. Like, that's going to make a Modern staple.
Right. Great against anything that's looking to just rush your life total.
Great against anything as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Second copy of Damping Sphere. All right.
That one is close. So the first copy for sure. The second one, because you're worried about the card Engineered Explosives, I'm less convinced about playing the second copy out. Since the disruption you're doing is already likely enough, if BBD goes for, say, Ancient Stirrings and gets an Explosives, like paying 2 extra mana for that Explosives is totally fine since you just go X equals 0. So I'm not sure about the second Damping Sphere here.
All right, so going to sack a Terrarian, dig for a card. I mean, honestly, Fire Spout wouldn't be terrible here either.
Fire Spout would buy BBD a lot of time, but Ancient Stirrings isn't the card that gets Fire Spout.
No. Finds a Mirror Retriever.
And I mean, you're not playing Ghostfire. That would be...
Man, that would be tech.
That'd be... Well, yeah, it would be tech, except Pyro Spellbomb is almost literally the same card. Jokes aside, like BBD, as you say, Fire Spout would be good. It would buy BBD a lot of time, get back that Ironworks. You still have to deal with Damping Spheres. But what BBD needed to be in this game was really in Explosives. And since BBD hasn't seemed to find an Explosive, I'd say Saito is hugely advantaged at this point. Because yeah, a chromatic star here would cost 2 more mana.
And there you see him paying 3 mana for a Mirror Retriever.
Wait yeah. Oh yeah, because of Terran, we had a floating mana. Yes. Yeah. So this is fine. So if you're watching,
I paid 4.
BBD had to pay 4 for that, but there was a floating mana from earlier on the Terrarian, so we're all fine. It's all fine.
All right.
That can't be good.
Well, and that is Reflector Mage.
More damage.
Yep.
More disruption.
Wow.
Reflector Mage here actually playing... Yeah, Explosives at this point would be too late. This is far too much pressure. So BBD needs a Fire Spout first, and then we're talking about...
And then can worry about digging his way out of this.
Yeah. But Fire Spout first. I don't think there's another card in BBD's deck to come back here. Well, an Engineered Explosives, let's see. An Engineered Explosives would not save BBD, so yeah. Yeah, playing in Cracking Star is... Actually, with a land, it's just okay. If BBD has a land and exactly Fire Spout, but we're done.
Yeah, no, we're going to game 3. Jamahara's sideboard showed up there. Knight of Autumn, a couple Damping Spheres. Brian Brown Doing could not find sideboard Fire Spout, or maybe, I don't know, do we think he brought in the Nature's Claims?
Oh, right. So it might be an important point to address, right? Like, Nature's Claim is not for this matchup. There's a desire, I feel, amongst a lot of players playing competitively to try to answer every permanent your opponent plays in some fashion. And one of those could be, well, why don't I play Claim if my opponent's boarding in Damping Sphere? It could also hit Vial. You could play a Claim. One.
Okay.
Exactly one. And the reason for that is not really part of your plan. Your opponent's plan is to put Disruption plus Pressure. So you have two answers here. You can either fight the Disruption, which is pretty hard because by the time you try to fight the Disruption, you usually lose. On the play, it's a lot easier, so BBD should get an edge there. But on the draw, that's almost not possible. So then at that point, you're going, well, I have to fight the board. And to fight the board, you need a card like Engineered Explosives, Fire Spout. Nature's Claim does not fight the board. It does gain 4 life as a bonus mode, which is relevant. So that's why I could see one. Sometimes, like a key attack, you can decide to Nature's Claim, an Ichor Wellspring, to gain 4 life, draw a card. That's fine, so I could see one claim for that. But honestly, when you're putting that Nature's Claim into your deck, you're also losing something. And all of the cards in BBD's deck are kind of cards that BBD wants. You can, like, shave a Mirror Retriever, since you know the human's deck isn't going to stop. Like, the second one isn't really necessary. You can shave maybe 1 or 2 Terrarians, that kind of thing. But overall, you want to stay as close to your main deck as possible. And when that happens and you go, I need 2 Fire Spouts, I need 3 Lightning Bolts, maybe Size. And that's maybe why we didn't see Size. Also, well, that's a lot of cards to bring in. But yeah.
You see BBD, he was his sideboarding was pretty straightforward. He's done. Waiting for Saito.
I mean, there's usually with decks like BBDs, there's a plan. You're not deviating from plan. Like if you have a pre-written Cyborg Guard for a deck for like Ironworks, it's fairly certain that it's going to be correct unless something very strange happens. One of the things that might change your mind, for example, is if you see Stony Silence from humans, which normally doesn't happen. But let's say a humans player decides to play Stony Silence, there you might make an argument that 1 or 2 extra claims might be a necessary evil. But I think this weekend, most players are aiming for the Dredge deck with Creeping Chill, aiming for the big mana decks like Tron and Emulator. We haven't seen them really, but it's worth keeping in the back of your mind. That's what the talk was of before the tournament started, so people are ready for those. That means less Stony Silences, and that means less answers. I mean, Luis Salvato played full Rest in Peace.
I can't tell you, I did see Reed Duke lose to Tron off camera in the feature match area, last round.
I saw an interesting green-black deck list that had the 4 Field of Ruin and the 4 Assassin's Trophy among the free buy players.
Woo.
Reed Duke was not that player, unfortunately, so that's why you would see a loss to Tron. It's one of green-black mid-range value is definitely one of the best matchups for Tron.
Yeah, you can see 12 minutes left in the round.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
both. And you see Saito, there was a card fell, and he was just like, hey, Judge, fix this for me.
Yeah.
But, again, with 5 extra turns at the end of allotted time, plenty of time for Brian Brown Doon's deck to win anyway, because he can just take that whole turn.
Even them, like, the human's deck isn't going to chip in damage all the time. It's going to, like, try kill in 2 or 3 swings. So we should probably see this game come to a conclusion, even though the time is low. Fortunately, the drop deck does that. Cut on some time.
See a couple players hanging out in the background, watching along the rail. Jarvis and Mark
That's
Jacobson.
a mulligan. Let's see what the hand is. Kitesail, Freebooter, some lands. That seems already good enough.
Kitesail, Freebooter, and lands, you say?
Well, maybe not 6 lands, but I didn't see the hand fully, but it's Kitesail, Freebooter, some lands, some spells. Seems okay to me.
Perfect.
I mean, Freebooter isn't like an auto win or anything. It's just a very good card. But usually if you have lands and spells and one of those spells is like a relevant card in the matchup, that means you generally keep.
Yeah, but Ironworks is one of those decks. It's not a path deck. It's not a bolt deck. It's not. I mean, Kitesail Freebooter ends up being a lot more of a long-term answer to a card in hand than it does against some of those decks that have just cheap answers, fatal pushes, and paths and bolts.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, BBD does have more spot removal and, well, sweepers too. Ironworks, some lands. Good enough.
Oh, there's that Gaddock Teague you talked about. Sideboard Gaddock Teague in hand for Tomohiro Saito.
Yeah, Gaddock Teague limits the number of answers that BBD has down to Lightning Bolt and Fire Spout, since Explosives and Ironwork can't be cast from it. Thalia is also pretty good.
All right, well, there's Aether Vial. So everything is coming up here for Saito. He's going to be firing on all cylinders.
These players are conscious of time. You notice BBD's posture and speed of pace of play has rapidly increased here.
Yeah, we are under the 10-minute mark, as you can see there. No adjustments to the advantage bar based on time left.
No, please, no. Let's not go down that road.
All right, so here's unclaimed territory.
Yeah, and Saito has, I believe, Meddling Mage, Freebooter, and Thalia to choose from. Freebooter is okay to lead on. You could also go on Thalia.
Well,
Oh, wow. That's a hand.
There is the hand. We see Engineered Explosives. We see Scrap Trawler, Mirror Retriever, Krark Clan Ironworks, and Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, this is a good hand for... I believe with this hand, your plan would be to take Engineered Explosives, and then the following turn go something like Meddling Mage on Krark Clan Ironworks and Thalia to really disrupt BBD's engine.
Wow.
I'd be tempted to take the Explosives, even though there's not a second colored source, since BBD can... If BBD draws a second color source and plays Explosives for 2, Saito is in tough shape. The alternative is you can take Ironworks and name Engineered Explosive with Meddling Mage. And there you see the power of Ancient Stirrings, though, is whatever Saito would decide to take here, Stirrings can get back. But yeah, I like taking the Explosives here. Just in case BBD draws like a natural colored, not just green land.
I think BBD is going to be Stirrings for land here.
Well, definitely BBD will want to make a land drop, but with a Chromatic Star, there's no harm in starting that way.
And that's what he does. Plays the star, cycles through it, uses the mana to cast Ancient Stirrings.
Grow the Worm Willows, play that. I think there was another star, so we're probably going to see that come down. Or Terrarian, rather.
He's like, here, gain your stupid life.
Oh, another Ancient Stirrings. Can't take that Lightning Bolt. Whiteboarder
like,
doesn't mean it lacks a color.
Wow, this Lightning Bolt would be great right here.
That's not how Magic works.
Okay, there's... well, it's a land drop for next turn, and that's pretty important.
Yeah, BBD probably didn't have many options and decided to just go for a land drop. Because Citadel especially is mana with the Krark Clan turn. Ooh, Noble Hierarch, nice here. More mana, faster clock.
Yep, Aether Vial ticks up to 2.
But yeah, we're probably going to see that double disruption turn. The only reason we kind of wouldn't would be if the clock was significantly increased. But it looks like Saito's preparing for a free turn clock. So this turn attack for 2, then do double disruption. The next turn, play the Thalia's Lieutenant in hand, bump everything, and that's 2 turns. I think that's the line Saito's going to go for. It's almost impossible to win in 2 turns. So if you're going disruption, attack, attack, that's putting the most pressure on BBD while attacking.
See him working out the sequencing there, you know, as he's kind of tapping out his turn.
It's also possible to cast a Lieutenant this turn as well. A top deck Lieutenant would be a very fast clock indeed. Oh, and yeah, that Gaddock Teague.
Gaddock Teague, he's got Thalia. He's got plenty of options here. Meddling Mage and Lieutenant.
The biggest consideration here is, do you play around Fire Spout? Fire Spout is not a popular card in the Ironworks sideboard, so I'm not sure Saito actually is aware of the card's existence.
Oh, wow.
Like, there are usually sweepers of some kind, but Fire Spout, maybe in the latest list, but it wasn't that common.
So he decides to lead with Meddling Mage.
Yeah, so...
By the way, there's also an extra minute on the clock here to allow for that incident with the card that got dropped.
Yeah, there's no need to play really Gaddock Teague here.
Meddling Mage named Scrap Trawler, by the way.
Okay, so by playing Lieutenant here, Saito is probably going to play Gaddock Teague. It might pass. There is a possibility, but I think if you're taking this line of playing Meddling Mage, Lieutenant, you're going for maximum pressure.
There is the Gaddock Teague, and now BBD needs to find a fire spout.
Yeah. The biggest reason to play Thalia is, very simply put, your opponent can't really cycle through stars quite as easily. Let's see, 17. So this should be a 2-turn clock. Or as close as it's possible. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7.
There you get a look at old Teague.
Yeah, this is close to a 2-turn clock. If it's not a 2-turn clock, like it's almost certainly one. BBD could block and buy time that way, but yeah, this looks as close as a 2-turn clock as possible. Saito here not up to, ticking up the vial, probably planning it for Thalia. Yep, let's attack.
In comes the team. Even the Noble Hierarch is swinging.
It's good enough. 1 power. Let's go. It's part of the team. Team play. Noble Hierarch is literally the closest thing to a team player. MVP support. But yeah, this is like why humans can usually be quite favored against Ironworks. If BBD had a third copy of Fire Spout in the deck, that would be insane.
All right. Retriever's going to jump in the way of something here.
Yeah, you might as well jump in the way of Meddling Mage. It's the largest creature. The fact that like Saito went wide is actually a pretty big advantage.
Oh, wow. And here comes Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. It's going to make the Lieutenant bigger.
So that's 7 damage down to 10.
But this is going to really throttle BBD's ability to go through his deck here.
Yep. Fire Spouter, bust. Engineered Explosives.
Wow.
That is, I believe, non-castable under Gadok Teague.
Yep.
So I think BBD has a Scrap Trawler. So Scrap Trawler would actually...
Scrap Trawler's named under Meddling Mage.
Is that the name?
That is the card he named, yes.
Oh, yeah, because Gadok Teague stops Clark Clan Ironworks. That's correct, yeah. So at that point, BBD is down to Lightning Bolt for this turn. Yeah, that's it. BBD needs to top deck Lightning Bolt to kill one of these humans. Probably, let's see, can we kill Gadok Teague? That would be best. So that's free on Meddling Mage, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, that's lethal. You're forced to kill Meddling Mage. You can't kill Teague. And then you have to top deck Fire Spout and hope that Saito's drawing nothing in all this process. So I think Saito is basically going to take this one down.
According to Marshall, he can only draw an Alpha Lightning Bolt to get him out of this situation, which, of course, he's not playing. And Tomohiro Saito gets the handshake from BBD, and Tomohiro Saito goes to 5-0 here with the Humans deck.
Yeah, so, I mean, solid deck. So, by the way, the reason a lot of players are playing either professional players are playing Ironworks or Humans, and I'm going to be one of these teams like in a house, is just there's a Standard Pro Tour coming up. They want to focus on Standard, so that's why you're seeing them